Welcome to the Adam Rothstein Hockey Podcast. This is your podcast for all things hockey. On this podcast, we talk about past history to the modern day and what you can do to grow the sport. I am your host, Adam Rothstein. All right, let's get to the show. Welcome into the Adam Rothstein Hockey Podcast. This is episode number 47, and today I am talking about the All Star Game and the skills competition. So we have the skills competition coming up on February 3rd, and the All Star Game is going to be on February 4th, that Saturday. And I do think it's a pretty good thing for... In terms of the All-Star games, aside from baseball, I think the NHL actually has the best All-Star game. I don't know if it's just more of the simplicity of it, or you're actually relying on pure skill and you don't need necessarily brute force as well. There's that. But also, maybe it's just that there's a lot of scoring going on, and maybe it's more of the old style of play on the pond sort of thing back in the old days, but no checking. So I actually do like that aspect, even though I also like to see people hitting each other as well, checking each other as well on ice. But the skills competition is probably the most unique out of every single one of them in terms of the big four. You have people pulling Michigans, you have the hardest shot, you've got hit 4 targets in 4 shots, or you have to get it off in a certain amount of time. There's that, and there's also the speed competition with Connor McDavid, and I do think that has just grown the game immensely, and also one-on-one breakaway shots as well, definitely still good, and if anything, that actually has changed my opinion of the shootout as well. I mean, maybe it's just me, but I do think that we need a way to break it, to actually determine winners of games in the NHL, because I don't think ties cut it anymore. They don't cut it in baseball and they don't cut it in basketball. So from here on in, my opinion has changed on the shootout, but just have a longer overtime. I think that's my opinion on that for regular season games. The All-Star Game is still comprised of 3 periods. You got 20 minutes for each of them, and you have a lot of players getting in there and getting ice time, and no one's really trying to get, I want a third to play a third of the game. Like no one's really thinking that. I think they're just out there, they're out there to have fun, and if anything, use their skills to their advantage as well, and just like really go at it, but just not with the hitting, and it's also kind of a rare thing to see, like a big hit in an All-Star game. No one's like the Pete Rose of the NHL. No one wants to like just have like a really bad hit on someone. And if you are not familiar with the Pete Rose situation from baseball, there was a catcher by the name of Ray Fosse, and he was an All-Star, and Pete Rose, aka Charlie Hustle, decided to just dive right into him, and and that was ended his career. So no one's out to end their career. Everyone acts like a gentleman, and and that's the way it should be with an All Star game. And then regular season games go back to hitting and go getting checking players off the puck, which you should do. The goalies, actually, let's go over the goalies. And let's see here. So the NHL goalies, uh, sorry, All Star goalies. Yeah, Gibson's gonna be in here, and Vasilevsky's gonna be in here, and we've got like, okay, NHL All Star Game roster. Linus Olmark is in here. It's astounding. Okay, yeah, I've got this going up here. Looks like you got Jamie Benn in here. 8th All Star. Alex Ovechkin is going to be in his 8th All Star game. So congrats on that. And special congrats for Johnny Gaudreau and Eric Carlson. Connor McDavid, yours truly is going on there as well. So we have, okay, here's a big surprise. Ilya Sorokin definitely does deserve to be in the All Star game because he carries the Islanders, and they are not, and they certainly wouldn't have had pulled off some of the points they did without him. So, and also he certainly got those 2 wins over over the weekend, if I'm not mistaken. Excuse me. Adam Fox is going to be on defense in the Metropolitan Division. Atlantic Division. Cale Makar is going to make his 2nd appearance. Special shout out to John Morrissey is going to make his 1st. Kevin Filia is going to make his 1st. Stuart Skinner of Edmonton is going on there for his 1st time. And Logan Thompson. Speaking, I'm going to just check the other roster. Cage. Yeah. And of course, special shout out to Tage Thompson, who's going to make his 1st appearance. I'll leave. I mean, you can definitely search this out on NHL.com as well. And I know I'm not on video today, but I have to 1, get this out, and 2, save space on my computer as well. But yeah. So we have this right here as well. So the 2023 NHL All Star Game is, hold on a moment. The 2023 NHL All Star Game, I think it's going to be good. I'll watch. I certainly love tuning in to the skills competition as well. Okay, yeah. So the Florida Panthers will be doing that as well. Yeah. So it's coming to Florida Panthers as well. This new event will take place on the beach in Fort Lauderdale with 4 teams of two. Yeah, so I'm just looking this up here. Yeah, so it'll be at FLA Live Arena in Sunrise, and I've been there before, as well, and I have to say it's a pretty good arena. And I think in the city of it's not like a Philadelphia or a New York City or even a Houston, as well, Sunrise. But I've got to admit that it's quite interesting because you have the it's just quite interesting because you have a city that is just not really as populated. In fact, I'm actually going to look up the population now of Sunrise, Florida. But it's not much bigger than Green Bay, if it's bigger at all. 96, there's less than 100,000 people. When I grew up in Germantown, there was about 100,000 people there as well. But but we just got drowned out by DC. So and every team was either in DC or they were in Landover. That was their thing. So growing up, but it's 96,000 people. I don't think we've ever had an All Star game where where it's only been like a population of 96,000 people for that given area. But Green Bay is actually 107,000. Just looked that up, and I mean, I actually thought Sunrise would be a little bit more popular, but it's really expensive to live in Sunrise, for one thing. But I digress. The All Star Game has certainly been around for a while. Okay, yeah. So the first NHL All Star Game was in 1947, and called for the defending Stanley Cup champions to play against a selection of All Stars from other 5 teams. So it was not like today where everyone gets in. Like you get your top players, you get on the Sabres, you get your Johnny Gaudreau of the Blue Jackets, you get everyone in there as well. And in similar ways to the MLB, you get all the stars. You get all the stars of the team because we have a out of market television viewing programs, and we've got and there's just 32 cities. I'm sorry. There's about 30 teams. Yeah, there's 30 cities, I guess, or yeah. Well, it's technically 32 because the Islanders. Okay, on a technicality, we'll just say 32 cities as well. We have 32 potential markets of people, and we need to account for all these players too. So I think it's just a good thing that we've evolved from what it was in 1947. So yeah. Okay, I'm definitely gonna look up at the time. All right. Okay. Let's gonna yeah. So I'm gonna leave a link from the Bleacher Report. A brief history of the NHL All-Star Game. Read this for a moment. 1934, earlier in the season, Eddie Shore of the Boston Bruins delivered a devastating Uranus Ace Bailey, fracturing his skull and ending his career. The injury caused internal bleeding, almost resulting in his death of Bailey and manslaughter charges against Shore. Okay, no, wait, that's not. Okay, yeah, the first official All-Star Game was in 1947. Okay, in 1951 we go. The All-Star Game format goes from All-Stars versus Stanley Cup champions to a team of first-team All-Stars supplemented with players from the 4 U.S.-based clubs, Chicago, Detroit, Boston, New York, playing second teams All-Stars with additions from Toronto and Montreal. Both the 1951 and 52 games ended in ties, and the leagues went back to the previous format for a little while. The last fighting major records in an All-Star Game are issued out to Montreal's Bert Olmsted and Detroit's Red Kelly. Red Kelly was really good. The All-Star Game is moved to the mid-season, as it should. And that was in 1967. And there was no All-Star Game played in 1966, oddly enough. And I'm just reading from here. Yeah. 1968, the last game featuring All-Stars against the Stanley Cup champs, Minnesota North Stars center Bill Masterson, had died the day before the All-Star Game due to a brain injury from a game on January 13th. As a result, Leafs winger Brian Conacher becomes the first All-Star player to wear a helmet. And I'm definitely glad they did that as well. You know, wear your helmets, people. You definitely need to wear your helmets. All of you should be wearing your helmets. and I know that's not easy to do when you are when it's coming, like, okay, wear your helmets with, a fishbowl or cage, or even if you go half face shield, like what they have in the NHL, wear a face shield, and if you're not going to wear a fishbowl or a cage, at least wear a mouth guard. Protect yourself. Just wanted to say that. All right, 1969, an East Division versus West Division format was introduced. That's what we have today. For the first time, players were rewarded for their efforts, with the winning side receiving $500 players each, and those from the losing side $250 each. Ironically, the game ended in a 3-3 tie, so I guess you give them $350 or something like you needed to do something for that. Whatever 750, but okay, I think that would be like you have to come up with something out on that one. Just not off the top of my head. It's an even number. 750 divided by 2. Oh my god. I think they definitely could have $375 a player. So hopefully all those players got at least $375. And making that in a day is a pretty good thing. I guess the equivalent of that now from 1969, I guess that would be, has to be close to about maybe $1,800 if I'm not mistaken. Could be something else. Whatever. It's really high today. It's like maybe $1,000 worth. Okay. 1972, Bobby Orr of the Boston Bruins is the first defenseman to win the All Star Game MVP. The only other defenseman to win it to date would be Ray Bourque in 1996. Another Boston Bruin, and oddly the best defenseman of all time, in my humble opinion. 1975, the conference-based format we are now familiar with is used with the Wales Conference against the Campbell Conference. The Wales won 12 of 17 games before the conference names were changed in 1993 to 94 to a more familiar Western, in parentheses, Campbell Conference, and Eastern, which was the Wales Conference, and eventually named the Eastern Conference. 1979, the Challenge Cup, NHL versus Soviets, replaced the All-Star Games for that year. 1980, Gordie Howe, then 51 years old, makes his 23rd and final appearance in an NHL All-Star Game as a member of the Hartford Whalers. The fans at Joe Louis Arena in Detroit, his home with the Red Wings, gave him a lengthy ovation. I can't speak today. And that was Wayne Gretzky's first All-Star Game. 1983, Gretzky scores 4 goals in one period in an All-Star Game. So, I mean, the dominance of that guy. 1984, Steve Yzerman was the youngest player to participate in an All-Star Game who was not a member of a defending Stanley Cup team. He was 18 years old with 18 months and 22 days of age, 8 months of age, whatever it was. He was an 18-year-old. Let's just say that. Okay, 1986, the fans are allowed for the first time to vote for the starting lineup for the All-Star Game. I think that was the right move in 1986, even if you didn't have internet or anything. The fans need to decide who these, who will. I think the fans do get to say who's a star and who's not. I think that's fair. 1988, Mario Lemieux scores 3 goals and 3 assists for an All-Star record 6 points, leading the East to a 6-5 overtime victory over the West. Montreal's Matt Naslund had 5 assists, also an All-Star Game record. 1989, Wayne Gretzky returns to Edmonton for his first All-Star game as a Los Angeles King. With a goal and 2 assists, he wins his second All-Star MVP award. 1993, Mike Gardner scores the fastest 2 goals from the start of a game, 3:15 and 3:37 for the first period, and Adam Oates records 4 assists in 1 period. Both are All-Star Game records. 1994, Mike Richter stops 19 of 21 shots, becoming the last goalie to date to win the All-Star Game MVP. 1995, the All-Star Game is not played due to the lockout, shortened NHL season, but, they had the Stanley Cup and the Devils won that. 1997, Owen Nolan of the San Jose Sharks points to the top corner behind Buffalo's Dominik Hasek while on a breakaway. He makes good on his called shot, firing a wrist shot past the Sabres goalie. 98, the game format changes from North American stars against players from the rest of the world. This format would be used for 5 more games. In 2000, Bure records his 11th hat-trick in an All-Star history and was named Games MVP. His brother Valerie assisted on 2 of Pavel's 3 goals to become the first brother combination since Maurice and Henry Richard to hook up for an All-Star game. The Richards combined in the 57 and 58 games, 1957, 1958. Okay, we'll end this at 2009. 2003, Danny Heatley becomes the first player to score 4 consecutive goals in an NHL All-Star game. This would also be the first feature to feature a shootout. Although Heatley scored in that as well, the West still prevailed 6-5. The All-Star Game in 2007, the All-Star Game is back for the first time since 2004. There was no game in 2005 because of the lockout, and none in 2006 because of the break in the schedule required in the Winter Olympics in Turin, Italy. 2008, Rick Nash scores just 12 seconds into the game, an all-star record. Eastern Conference captain and host team Montreal Canadiens winger Alex Kovalev has a 3.92 goals, 1 assist. He also scores in the shootout, earning the MVP as the East wins 12-11. Canadiens defenseman Mike Komisark gets a hooking penalty in overtime. It's the first penalty called in a game since 2000. So that was just some of the records from all the way from the first time to 2009. Hopefully we get to see more records this year as well in 2023. And Sunrise is going to be a good place. Not a lot of space in Sunrise, I'll tell you that much, and not a big population. But it's if anything, it's got potential to be a really big city, or a really good city. And I think it's a good thing coming down to Florida as well. You tell someone that 50 years ago there'd be a team in Florida, they would have get lost. Now, I mean, in the movie Slapshot, they definitely had the technology to do it and have ice rinks, but no one was interested enough to do it. The Atlanta Flames lost, but yeah, the Atlanta Flames went to Calgary. The Thrashers became the Jets and went to Winnipeg nearly 11 years ago. But I think the All-Star Game is going to be great for everyone. And if you're in Florida and you get tickets to that, have fun. So that'll do it for this episode of the Adam Rothstein Hockey Podcast. I hope you enjoyed that bit of me reading all that. Please be sure to rate this 5 stars on Spotify, an Apple podcast, please write me a review of this. And please subscribe to rothsteina.substack.com. I'll leave a link in the show notes or description. And I'll give you, also, there will be a link to that Bleacher Report of what I read earlier. And also, please share the show with a friend. That's how I grow this show. People sharing it and saying Adam Rothstein is the greatest commentary when it comes to hockey. I am that guy. So please definitely rate this 5 stars. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already, and I will talk to you all in the next episode. Take care.